Welcome to EPL Insights with data provided by Infogol. It's game week 38 of the Premier League season. We're just about there. Gareth Wheeler, and welcome back to Jake Osgathorpe for the final edition of the podcast this season. He's now a father, so he's not going to let a lack of sleep or anything else get in his way. He's dedicated to give you his top picks and prognostications to bring this Premier League season home. How are things going on the home front, Jake? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to be back. Things going very well. She's been very good so far. She's growing fast already. I can't believe it's been 5 weeks, but yeah, she's very excited, and I'll tell you why. You'll know I'm a Sheffield Wednesday fan, but the first game that we actually watched together was the ridiculous comeback against Peterborough. Now, in all my years of supporting Sheffield Wednesday, I've never seen us do something like that. And she won't remember it, but she saw it. So that's it now. She's a Sheffield Wednesday fan for life. She's hooked.
Amazing. See, when my son was born a year ago, things went in the opposite direction. I'm a massive Manchester United supporter, and they just had one of the worst seasons on record in recent history. So I was kind of blaming him, but things have come back around as he continues to grow. But glad to have you back. Really thrilled for you and your wife, and that everything's going well on the home front. And the good thing about having a child as well is there's a lot of time at home and a lot of time watching football. So I know that you've been keeping up to speed, and
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing some of your viewpoints as we head into the final week of the season, where everything is not settled. There's still going to be two other teams joining Southampton being relegated. We'll go through the entire fixture list for this upcoming Sunday as the Premier League season for 2022-2023 comes to an end. But before we look forward, we're going to take a little bit of a look back, take a stroll down memory lane as to what happened over the course of this season. And before the season began, the Pinnacle provided an EPL table prediction. So based upon how many points each and every team picked up in 21 and 22, and based upon the data and the analytics involved, they came up with some numbers of where we believed each side would finish in the Premier League table and on how many points. There's been some notable jumps in terms of teams overperforming their initial predictions and some teams absolutely falling short. Most notably, the top four was predicted to be Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs. Only one of those sides is going to finish in the top four, and that's the title
Crazy,
winners in
isn't it?
Manchester City. Yeah, it's wild. With Manchester United predicted to be fifth, Arsenal sixth, Newcastle seventh, all making big jumps forward. Leicester City was picked to finish ninth on 51.5 projected points. There's been a massive drop off there. And you can also say that Fulham, who are predicted to be relegated at the start of the season, they're going to finish in the top half of the table. And Brighton's made a massive leap as well, predicted to only pick up 48.5 points in 10th place. And now they're looking at Europa League football next year. What do you garner from this? Some of the movers, some of the teams that did well, some of the teams that struggle. And overall, what can a better do, or how can they utilize these numbers maybe to project or use them going forward?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, like you said, there's so many complete misses effectively, hasn't there been, for this season? Like one team from the top four managed to get in there. That's crazy. We've seen a couple of seasons like this, haven't we, where the so-called establishment have not really shown up. But yeah, it's always difficult to project. I mean, there's so many factors to take into account. You know, you've got the potential managerial switches, like Tuchel, for example, at Chelsea. I mean, they sacked him after 6 games, and I think they were, about 8th in the table. So it wasn't like they were where they are now and then sacked him. So anyone who projected Chelsea top 4, that was kind of, tear it up and start again, getting rid of a world-class manager. You've got European football to factor in as well when you're doing these kind of things, playing Thursday nights. I know Man United have done a great job this season of balancing those Thursday night slots alongside finishing the top 4. And then the big elephant in the room really was Newcastle, wasn't it? Last summer, it was, what are they going to be? How good are they going to be? They didn't go mental spending. They did smart things, smart business, and made themselves a strong team. And deservedly finishing in the top four. I mean, if you compare that projected table to how the table currently stands on expected points, you've got Man City top, Newcastle second, Arsenal third. You've got Brighton fourth on expected points. So, that four that's solid. No one's going to jump in on the final day because Brighton are well clear of Liverpool in fifth. So yeah, again, it just shows you that money isn't everything in football. You've seen Brighton in particular completely punching above their weight when it comes to the transfer dealings and the way in which they go about their business. You see Brentford do similar. I mean, we'll talk about them in a bit, but they've got an outside chance of finishing seventh and getting European football as well, which would be an incredible achievement. And it would, to be honest, it just round off a really, really fantastic season that's been unpredictable at top and bottom. Bournemouth were projected to finish bottom by Pinnacle. We had them finishing bottom as well at Infogol. They actually have picked up the fewest expected points this season, so they have been fortunate to survive. But the last 6-7 matches they put in have been really fantastic, and quite a few upsets here and there. And I think that's why we love the Premier League, isn't it? It is apart from Man City winning it every year, it's unpredictable.
Right. And financial fair play might have a say in the way that we approach that.
What's financial fair play?
No idea. It matters for some clubs, and it's just a myth. It's like the Loch Ness Monster for others. It's the first time since 2017, 2018 that all three promoted clubs stayed in the division. I had to tear up my futures play. Nottingham Forest being relegated. That's in the bin. That was I know. I didn't think it would come together, and Steve Cooper deserves a lot of credit. I thought I was locked into that play. That was one of my missteps over the course of the year. But getting more into, the projected numbers, can you use those numbers going forward? So if a team completely overachieves in terms of where they're projected, is there anything for the following season? Is regression natural here based upon history, or do you prefer to look at the expected table and what that means? How do you approach these numbers, and how can our bettors better utilize those numbers to kind of figure out what they want to do next?
Yeah, so I generally would use the expected table and look at expected points. So that expected points is effectively, it's a way of calculating what percentage chance each team had of winning each individual game based on the chances created in that game. So if you're winning the XG battle 2xG to 0.5 every week, then you're going to be picking up around 2.7 expected points. Likewise, if you lose it, you're going to lose it by that money, you're going to pick up around 0.3. So it's a better gauge of understanding in general over the totality of the season and who's been the better side in individual matches. And yeah, you get a lot of overperformers, you get a lot of underperformers. So I did a little bit of digging throughout the Infogol historic data, goes back to 2014. And there were 23 teams that overperformed their expected points tally by 10 or more. And combined, so as an average, the points that they accumulated from season A to season B dropped by 13. So the season following an overperformance, they picked up 13 fewer points on average than they did the season of the overperformance, which is, like you said, regression. And that also accumulated to a drop of 3.3 positions as well. So yeah, generally it's not a very good sign that a team that overperforms by 10 expected points or more. There's some huge outliers in here that we have to factor in. Obviously Chelsea, when they won the league in 14-15, picked up 87 points. The following season, if you remember, it was a complete catastrophe. They finished 10th, picked up 50 points, so they were 37 points worse off. They overperformed their expected points by 17 in the title-winning season. And likewise, Liverpool, who when they won the title in 1920, a massive outlier as well, picked up 99 points. In the following season, they picked up just 69, so a 30-point drop-off. And they overperformed in the title-winning season by 28 points when it comes to the expected points. So it's never a good sign. It does catch up with you. This season, if you want any flags for next season as to potentially what could happen, you've got Arsenal in there. They've overperformed their expected points by 13. City and United have overperformed theirs by 11. And Fulham, I think Fulham are the interesting one for me because they've overperformed their expected points by 11 as well. And generally, looking down the list, most of the teams that have overperformed their expected points are the established top six. Now, they're never going to get relegated. They do see a drop-off in terms of if they finish second, for example, with Man United and then finish sixth the following season. But the teams that we have seen, so last season was Leicester. Leicester was the one that was flagged up last season. They picked up 52 points, finished eighth, overperformed their expected points by 10.4. And this season they are on track to be relegated. Also, the season before, Everton, 10th, finished 16th the following season. So it is generally a good indicator as to, where teams are kind of trending, where that regression will hit. They won't get as much fortune. And Fulham are definitely a team that have had that fortune. They've shown bits, haven't they, where they've looked really good, like a solid team. But over the course of the season, they've been very fortunate to finish where they have, which is currently 10th, overperforming their expected points by 11. So one to watch maybe for relegation next season. Obviously, all these can change because signings can be made, that can improve. Particularly Fulham, a club like that's got a lot of money. And I would say the same with Manchester United as well, in terms of they're only going to get better under Ten Hag. They're going to sign more players. The takeover potential could maybe scupper these plans. So that means Arsenal could potentially be interested to maybe miss out on the top four as a part of regression. Because, like I say, you look back over previous seasons, Man United have been a real constant theme, finishing second under Mourinho, second under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and then following that up with sixth place finishes because of overperformance. So, just an interesting little thing that I found that I just thought was really interesting, worth bringing up. Potential future play for the following season. Fulham relegation, Arsenal miss out on the top four.
Brilliant research, great stuff. You just dug that up. You just dug deep into the numbers in between putting your daughter down for naps. It's very impressive the way that you multitask, and it's all applicable. We can apply it to our approach heading into next season as well. It hasn't all been a case of misreading the scenario for us this season. I think we've done quite well in areas. We've been profitable all season long, 2023 especially, after the turn of the new year. It's been great. Our Brentford home plays, I think we were ahead of the trend on Brighton. I certainly was ahead of the trend on United finishing in the top four. I do have a future play there. And
you were ahead of the trend with Spurs as well.
Fading Spurs and fading Arsenal in the end.
Yeah.
Both suited me well. And those are just some of the things that kind of stand out over the course of the season. Anything else stand out for you?
The Forest pick that I said earlier, from the start of the season, I wouldn't say I was bullish on them staying up, but I just felt that all the signings that were made at the start of the season, that they would start slowly and they would find a bit of form, because I felt like they did sign enough quality to survive. Newcastle, I was fairly high on them from early on in the season, just because their underlying data was pretty staggering. And Liverpool, fading Liverpool as well. We were both on that in terms of just their defensive numbers they were putting up were absolutely abysmal. So, good. And, can't forget Chelsea, can we? I mean, they've been free money for the last couple of weeks, haven't they, since they brought Lampard in? They've just been giving away money. And just back against them every single week. You can be a profitable.
Well, it's not just the results. I feel like the totals have been using the data on Infogol and using our research. The totals have been the ones that have stood out to me more than the results. I'm not sure about you over the season. I feel like I've been making way more plays when it comes to bets on the total than the actual results.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think there's been a lot of overs unders that have been played. A lot more than outright wins. There's been quite a few Asian handicaps, plus 0.5 double chance. When we get an underdog like a Brentford at home to Liverpool or whatever, that's been a very profitable play and one that I think will probably continue next season as well. So something to keep an eye on there.
All right, let's dig into our feature 5 and go rapid fire for the final 5. Each and every one of the 10 games is going to be played simultaneously on Sunday. Last week, there was upsets. Nottingham Forest beat Arsenal with an implied probability of 18.9. Villa Liverpool draw, an implied probability of 20%. Brentford to beat Spurs started the day with 27.1 implied probability. Again, fading Spurs, it's been free money as well. Heading into the final game of the season can oftentimes be dicey. Most of the teams not really playing for quote unquote anything. How much do you shy away based upon context versus, the data's all there. The trends have been set. So what do you lean upon heading into this final week, Jake?
It's difficult. It really is. The final week, I do find rather than expected goals, it's expected momentum or motivation that's kind of comes to the fore. I generally, one of my things that I will always look for and I will always do is I will always weight more towards the home team because when it comes to the final two match weeks of the season, you do, well, when it comes to like a dead rubber, if you like, the home team is always up for it because it's the final home game. They want to put on a show for the fans before they go off from the summer. So I always weight the home teams slightly more in the last two games of the season, just for that reason exactly. And you do see when teams get safe. We've seen it with Wolves. We've seen it with a couple of other teams this season when they are safe. When it comes to playing away from home, they just don't show up. They show up when they're playing at home. Like Wolves won four in a row at home and drew the last. I think they've lost 5 out of 6 away from home. So they do not quite throw the towel in, but they don't play at the
Well,
same standards. So that's one thing. And then obviously motivation is another. It's just trying to figure out how much weight you put into that when it comes to the pricing. So you'll see, we'll go through the matches soon, but like Everton minus 208 to beat Bournemouth. And that's
yeah,
just purely because they have to win. There's no
yeah.
other logic behind that. And they have to win and Bournemouth don't. That's why it's artificially short. And they're the tricky games I find. Those kind of ridiculous price ones where it is just all about the bookies saying, well, they need to win and they don't. Right. Make them really short.
I,
That
I
that's
will.
what that's what I stay away from
I
generally.
will I will say this weekend there are some dog home sides. And I'm not talking about underdogs. I'm talking about just woof woof, like bad teams playing at home this week. And it's a perfect place to start in our feature five. It's Chelsea and Newcastle. Chelsea have played Manchester United at Old Trafford before we record this on Thursday. So anything that we provide does not include that upcoming game. No clean sheets for Chelsea in their last 9 games prior. They have a ton of injuries at the back. James, Chilwell, Cucurella, go across the board. I mean, this team, good thing they have about 30 players in them because the injury list is a lengthy one to finish the season. No wins at home at Stamford Bridge in their last 6. They can only finish as high as 11th. Only 36 goals scored in 36 games, 15th in terms of home points, and 19 home goals scored is 17th in the Premier League. It's just wild. Only Everton and Southampton have scored less. For Newcastle, Champions League football, check. It's mission accomplished for Eddie Howe's side after their goalless draw against Leicester City. They haven't lost in 3. 4 of their 5 last games have been at home, so they go away here to finish the season. And they've gone over 2.5 in 7 of their last 9, over 2.4 in terms of XG, according to Infogol, in 5 of their last 6 games as well. So they continue to create chances. Both teams, the scorers played in 5 of their last 7. They have the 3rd best away record on the season. Nick Pope and Joe Linton are out this weekend. Head-to-head, Newcastle won the reverse fixture 1-0, and they played to under the 2.5 goal total in 6 of 7. There is a big fat plus number for a Newcastle victory here today. I don't know how anyone in the right mind can back Chelsea, even if they're playing at home to finish this season. Welcome back to the podcast. I know that we're in alignment here. We have to be.
We are, yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt, like we've just spoken about, just fade Chelsea at any opportunity. I mean, we'll get bit occasionally by taking this angle because Chelsea have got good players. They've got quality in the team. They can win on any given Sunday, but yeah, this is a real mismatch when it comes to the teams and the data and everything. It's just a case of will Newcastle turn up? That's the only nagging doubt, if you like. Winless in 6 at home, Chelsea. The only win came against Leeds, which everyone seems to be beating them. 1 win in 7 under Lampard, so he's doing a great job. Average 1.1 expected goals, 1.7 expected goals against per game in that time. So they are a true bottom half team. I mean, Lampard's literally taken his Everton form to Chelsea, which it takes some doing given there's a big upgrade in player quality. But yeah, and Newcastle they did stumble over the line when it comes to the top 4, a couple of draws against Leicester and Leeds. But I fully expect them to play freely in this game. The pressure's off. They can play with a bit of swagger. They can end Chelsea's season with an absolute whimper. And at the end of the day, they continue to create a ridiculous amount of chances in attacking areas to Newcastle. I know they were held by Leicester, but they racked up over 2.6 XG in that game. And across the last 7 in the league, they've averaged 3 expected goals for per game, which is ridiculously high. Away from home in the last 6, it's at 2 expected goals for per game. So they will create chances if they turn up. And that if factor is the only thing that's putting me off taking Newcastle to win the game outright. So instead, I'm taking Newcastle plus 0 on the Asian handicap, minus 112. So draw no bet, money back if the end ends in a draw, which, I don't think Newcastle are going to lose. It's just a case of how much beer they drank between Monday and Sunday.
Yeah. I put down the exact same thing. I put down Newcastle on the Asian handicap, draw no bet at minus 112 as my first play, but I'm tempted to play it at plus 158. I think some will depend on how Chelsea fares on Thursday against Manchester United, if and how this number may move, but I'm fine with locking in at minus 112 or an outright win at plus 158 if you want to make a play for a little bit more juice. I'm fine with either of them. The total in this game is set at 2.75. Chelsea, the state of their back four means I can't back an under, which Chelsea to the under is being absolutely printing money as well. So I'm just going to stick with the result in this one. So the preferable play, the safe play, Newcastle on the Asian handicap. But I wouldn't try to persuade you not to go all in with the Newcastle outright victory in this game. Let's just move forward. Enough of Chelsea. I'm not going to miss having to talk about Chelsea on this podcast. Moving forward, hopefully better fortunes come their way next campaign. You mentioned the team's name in the last segment here. It's Leeds and Spurs. Leeds need a win and help in order to stay in the Premier League next season. A win with both Everton and Leicester City losing would do the trick, as would a 3-goal victory for Leeds over Spurs in this game, combined with an Everton draw and a Leicester City loss.
They need a minor miracle, basically.
Yeah, I mean, are they going to beat Spurs by 3 goals? I mean, it is Spurs after all. I guess
yeah, absolutely could happen.
Could Leicester City lose? Could Everton draw? Sure, but I mean, a lot needs to go their way. They need to win and they need some help here. They scored first, but lost 3-1 against West Ham. It was a big blow to them losing that game, and to Big Sam and his reputation as well as his pocketbook. No wins in 8 for Leeds, no clean sheet. In the last 14 games, they played over the 2.5 total in 9 of 10. Both teams' scorers played in 10 of 10, and they've conceded the most goals at home over the season with 33. As for Spurs, they need to win and they need some help to finish in the top 7, which would give them European football next season. Wild. They could finish below Brentford in 9th if things don't go their way this weekend. Back-to-back losses at Villa, at home, and to Brentford after scoring first. I mean, one of the lone bright spots, and it might not be for much longer, Harry Kane scored in 4 straight games. He has 27 goals quietly on the season, I would say. They'll finish behind Haaland in second place, but ahead by some margin over players like Tony and Salah. Spurs have gone over 2.5 in 7 of 8. Both teams' scorers played in 9 of 10. They're 10th in away points. 37 goals conceded away is more than Southampton, and 16th overall, and they haven't won away in their last 7. They've been absolute dog's breakfast. Head-to-head, a 4-3 win, with Leeds winning 3 times, or leading 3 times in that game, but Spurs pulled it off. It was a great game to watch. Bentancur had the late brace in that game to give Spurs the full 3 points. Spurs have beat Leeds 3 straight times. Leeds no clean sheet against Spurs in their last 16, over 2.5 in 8 of 8. Both teams to score in 6 of 8. Leeds has been absolutely money in overplays over recent weeks. I'm not sure if that's the direction you go here, or maybe you have a play to do with the result in this game.
Well, I've got a goals-based play, yeah, but when you're looking at over 2.5 goals at minus 198, that tells you all you need to know about these two teams. They just can't defend. And ultimately, it comes down to the fact that Leeds need to win. So again, we're looking at that need factor. This is the only game, though, which the bookies have kind of placed the need to win evenly, with Spurs are still favourites. Whereas, personally, I would say that the motivation if we're doing an expected motivation, it would be 65-35 in Leeds' favour, because I don't think Spurs are that bothered about finishing in seventh in the Conference League. They might want a free hit with the new manager with one game a week. So
they enjoyed the time in the
maybe,
Conference League a couple years back, right? Like maybe they want to go back to the dance.
Maybe. I mean, there's some really rogue away trips in there. You could end up playing anywhere, but
It could be the new West Ham.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That competition. I know I'm not saying Spurs are a massive club, but that competition is perfect for a team like a West Ham or a Aston Villa to make that next stepping stone, because it gives them experience in playing in Europe, and obviously you've got the big carrot of automatic qualification to the Europa League should you win it. But yeah, I definitely think that Leeds' motivation will be higher. So I was looking at Leeds to win at plus 177, but I just think that they are that bad that they'll be able to somehow not win this game. And Big Sam's come in. He's supposed to be a defensive-minded coach. They've shipped 2.6 expected goals against per game since he's come in, so that's not worked. They are an absolute shambles defensively. The only thing that's probably in their favour is that they're going to have to not think about defending too much here, because they have to win. And like you said, win by 3 clear goals is probably the realistic chance of surviving. So they're going to have to go all out. And that for me is why I was leaning towards Tottenham on the over 1.5 team total at minus 108, because I think if Leeds are going gung-ho, that suits Spurs to the ground. Like we know for the last 4 or 5 years, they just love counter-attacking football. And if they've got the opportunity to do that with Kane and Son against this team that's already bad defensively, and now they're going to be throwing even more bodies forward, leaving themselves even more exposed, then Tottenham could have a bit of a field day and score a couple of goals. I'm pretty sure Harry Kane will probably, I know he's not going to catch Haaland, but he might have an eye on getting to 30 goals as a little bit of a target for himself. They've not got anything to worry about next week, so I can't see them resting anybody. And we've seen that they've got the capabilities to do that when traveling. I mean, they went to Anfield recently, scored 3 times. They scored twice against Man United as well. So against better teams than Leeds, they managed to hit the net twice. And this is it's just a free hit, isn't it? No one really cares what happens in this game for Tottenham. So yeah, I think it's going to be high scoring. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 2-2 kind of game. But yeah, I just thought there's a bit more value in taking Spurs to score twice, given what Leeds have put up defensively and the way the game state is.
I missed you, pal. The exact same thing. Spurs over the goal total, 1.5 and minus 108. In their last 4 games, Leeds have conceded 4, 2, 2, 3. The Spurs team, the problem isn't attacking. It's not Kane and company. It's just defensively, they're an absolute mess. But Leeds are even worse from a defensive perspective. So this might be my best bet of the week. Spurs goal total over, like in this game. Who can trust Leeds when you watch them play? It's amateur defending. Them and Leicester City, they find themselves where they're at for a reason. It's just what they do from a defensive perspective is just absolutely awful. So yeah, let's go Spurs over their goal total. Just score 2. That's it.
Yeah,
should be easy against a team like Leeds. Especially if Leeds are chasing the game, right? If it's level and they need to go on and win, they're going to push numbers forward, leave themselves even more exposed. So love that play.
Yep.
Let's talk. Anything else there? Sorry, you looked like
no. That's it. Yeah, I think Leeds, we have them around a 97% chance of going down, so they do need a bit of a minor miracle to make that happen and survive. And yeah, I like I say, I think the game state is perfectly set up for a really difficult afternoon for Leeds and Spurs to potentially score quite a few goals.
Same thing goes for Leicester City. I mean, they're a little bit more likely to stay up and need a little bit less help than Leeds, but still it's going to be difficult this weekend as Leicester City take on West Ham. Both in 2003, both Leeds and Leicester went down, and that looks to be the case this time around as well, 20 years later. Leicester City need a win and an Everton loss or draw in order to stay up. They're just coming off a goalless draw at Newcastle, which goes against the grain for a team that ships lots of goals. In fact, Leicester City, for whatever reason, hasn't been able to score in back-to-back games. They play better competition, but still, This is the team there where their attacking process hasn't generally been the issue. No wins in 5. They played to over 2.5 in 5 of 7. Both teams to score in 5 of 7. Only Southampton has fewer home points than Leicester City, 16 on the season. West Ham, they're finishing the season strong in European competition as well as in league play. They're safe. They beat Leeds 3-1. However, they've lost 3 straight games away from home in the Premier League. Then on the season, this is why they find themselves so far down in the table. 3-3-12 away from home on the season is 17th overall in terms of away form. And 15 away goals scored is 18th in the Premier League. Head-to-head, Leicester City actually won the reverse fixture 2-0. Madison and Barnes scoring. That would work well for them again this weekend if they can pull it off. West Ham, no clean sheets in 4. They played to over 2.5 in 7 of 8, and both teams to scores played in 7 of 9. Look, there's some real talent in this Leicester City side, but they just look like a ragtag bunch that seemingly have no chemistry and cannot come together and play a complete game of football. Does that carry on this weekend and what's going to be the deciding match for the Premier League fate?
So this is a game I said at the start, I don't want to get involved with teams that are artificially short. This is a big caveat though, because West Ham, remember I said about teams that just throw in the towel away from home? West Ham are one of those teams. Mm-hmm. You factor in that and the fact that they've got a Champions League, Europa Conference League final, so they will not be taking chances with players. They'll be trying to keep them fully fit. I think this is a really good spot for Leicester to get a win. I think Leicester minus 107 is the play I'm going to make. So as I said, Leicester need to win. West Ham, they've been a joke away from home recently, like that, and that's been polite. They've conceded 9 goals in the last 3 outings, 9.1 expected goals against. So 3 expected goals against per game is what they've averaged. Survival secured before that. So they knew they were safe, and it was kind of focus on the Europa Conference League. We want to win our home matches. I think they beat Man United, didn't they? They obviously beat Leeds. But yeah, many changes. I'm expecting many changes. I don't expect to see Rice, Bowen, Antonio, maybe for half an hour cameos at the end just to keep them fresh. But yeah, Leicester, I think they've got a great chance. I mean, bar 2 matches against Liverpool and Newcastle, so the 2 of the top 5, they've actually created a lot of chances under Dean Smith. 3.3 expected goals at Fulham, 3.1 at home to Everton, 2.3 at Leeds, 2.9 against Wolves, and even 2 expected goals away at Manchester City. So they've averaged 2.1 expected goals for per game since Dean Smith took over. So they are creating a lot of chances. And I think that stands them in really good stead here. Obviously, the defence is a massive question mark. But given only a win will do, all-out attack performance is expected. And I just think that they'll be playing a very demotivated West Ham team, a team that will not be even considering, playing to their max capacity, unless there's some bad blood between the teams that we don't know about. That's the only massive caveat. If for whatever reason West Ham hold a grudge, about Leicester for something, that's the only reason why I would expect them to turn up and play hard here. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a bit of a run out for West Ham. So yeah, I think Leicester at minus 107. The out of, you've obviously got Everton. They're ridiculously short, but I'd say that Leicester are in a similar position to Everton in terms of the playing against a team that have nothing to play for. And I'd probably say Bournemouth are more likely to spoil Everton's party than West Ham Leicester. So I think that price is fair given everything that I've discussed there. And it's a brave man to back this Leicester team to win because they have been extremely unpredictable. But I just think this is a good opportunity to try and do that.
On that, for a lot of those reasons, is why I like the over 2.75 at minus 114. Because Leicester City cannot defend whatsoever. And West Ham, just in terms of these fixtures going up against one another, the overs played in 7 of 8, and both teams have scored in 7 of 9. And this West Ham team is still very good at set pieces. I see there being some benefit here to betting the total in this game. Again, Leicester City needs to chase it. I understand your play with Leicester City in the over total, and the outright win. But I'm just looking at the number. Leicester City all season long have very seldom betrayed me in terms of betting the over. And I think they're going to bring it home this week. And you documented they're creating chances. And defensively, I know Danny Ward was a nightmare. Everson's been a nightmare. It's just been a mess at the back. And West Ham, even if, they're not pushing on and taking this game seriously, I still think they have enough in the team to score in this game. And oftentimes that happens in games like this at the end of the season. So I like over the total 2.75 at -114. So
I like the over as well. That was going to be my second favorite play. Just, yeah, it's got all the hallmarks of going to be a really entertaining end-to-end match. I did think it was interesting. Obviously, on Monday night, the team that Dean Smith picked was very defensive, rested a lot of his stars, attacking stars, and obviously that was to try and get a result at Newcastle. But I think also maybe had one eye on keeping them fresh for this, and just making sure that they were fully fit and raring to go. So the likes of Barnes and Maddison did start the game, so they should be 100% ready to go and beat West Ham. And I think if they beat West Ham, they'll have a decent chance of staying up. Because Everton, I mean, we'll get onto them in a minute, won't we? But they have the capability to really, really make a mess of things here.
By the way, in terms of the futures plays on Pinnacle, Everton to be relegated is still available at +301. If anything that Jake said about Leicester City makes sense to you, that might be where you find some real true value here this week. And we'll get to them in a few moments. Carrying on in our feature 5, it's Aston Villa and Brighton. Two of the feel-good stories of this Premier League season. Aston Villa on course for European football, coming off a 1-1 draw at Liverpool, a win over Spurs before that. It's been an impressive closeout to the season. Unai Emery's done a great job, one of the top managers, no doubt, in the Premier League. No clean sheet in 4, however, for Villa, but they have played to under 2.5 in 5 of 6. Brighton are coming off the 1-1 draw against Manchester City on Wednesday, which, congratulations, secured them Europa League football next season. Crazy to think, with the changes in manager, some players going out, that this side continues to improve and make over $100 million profit on player sales in the process. They're the standard in terms of at least this season. Whether it's sustainable going forward, we shall see. De Zerbi deserves every bit of the credit that Unai Emery does in terms of the way that he's managed taking over a side and making them better. Brighton, the 4th best away side in the Premier League, 2nd most away goals scored with 34. However, no clean sheets in their last 3. They played to over 2.5 in 4 of 5, and both teams has played in 4 of 5. Head to head, think about how long ago they played. Danny Ings scored a brace in the game. Won the game for Villa. He's not even there anymore. 2-1 happened right before the World Cup. Villa haven't lost to Brighton in 5, and Brighton no clean sheet in their last 4. So Brighton have had a fixture buildup here over recent weeks. They played a lot of games in a short period of time. And Aston Villa could be a big result if they can pull one off this weekend. It's hard to bet against Brighton, though, isn't it? Like, I don't care, on how little rest. This team is deep, they're talented, and their style of play makes them a perceived favorite almost every time that they hit the field. So it's a difficult one here. Where are you going with this?
Yeah, everything you said there is, any other week, I've been nodding along in agreement, but I think this is another one where we can take advantage of, the motivation, the fact that that teams like Brighton will probably be on the beach figuratively and not, but they've had such a massive achievement in midweek. You wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of groggy heads on Sunday and put off the gas almost, because they've done their job. Villa can't catch them. And the other thing we've seen from Brighton lately is they've thrown in some really odd performances, really bad performances as well. They obviously lost to Nottingham Forest away from home, conceded 2.8 expected goals in that one. The Everton game at home, which was hugely surprising, 3 expected goals against. And then Newcastle away, 4.2 expected goals against. So they're generally quite a consistent team, but they have started throwing in a few really, really dodgy performances. And I do wonder if that's, likely to be the case again here, with just a little, the lack of motivation and the fact that quite a few of them probably either want to keep themselves fit for a potential transfer in the summer. They don't want an injury to ruin that. But also, they've done their job. And I think Aston Villa, not only have we got Brighton that potentially could throw in a dodgy performance, Villa have been very solid at home recently. They were the better team at Anfield, which I thought was not many teams can do that. They won the XG battle 1.5 to 1 in that game. And they've won 6 home games in a row. They've averaged 1.7 expected goals for, 0.6 expected goals against per game in that run. So that's a phenomenal process when it comes to playing as hosts. And only Tottenham have generated more than 1 expected goal. So they're a very solid defensive team, Villa, especially at home. And yeah, they know a win secures them European football. A draw could, given results elsewhere, but you don't want to take that chance when you've got a home game against a team that really isn't playing for anything right now. So I'm taking Villa to win at plus 10. Let's move a little bit, plus 102. Just shortened a little bit from plus 106. I think it will carry on shortening because, yeah, this is where the need to win and the motivation will continue to shorten the price. But I think we've also got to factor in that Villa are a good team. It's not like it Leeds are hosting Brighton here. It's Villa who are effectively ready to play in Europe next season, and they do deserve a bit more credit in the bank than that price probably suggests, given the potential non-interest of Brighton. So yeah, I'm taking Villa to win.
They're a good team, Villa are, but they're not as good as Brighton. This is going to be the first time that we're on opposite sides of this. Okay. Look, I don't think it's in De Zerbi's mentality to just go pack it in for the last game of the season. This team has continued to bring through young players. Like Duncan Webster didn't play on the weekend. They just played Colwell and Van Hecke at the back. Like there has been rotation, and it's that next man up mentality. And when you have so many young players just proving themselves in the league, I don't think that they take games like this for granted. And one thing I know about young people as they get older, they don't party like the old group do. They don't. Young kids don't party anymore at all, at least as hard or for as long. So I think Brighton can go to Villa and come away with something here. I think they can win outright. That's not my play. I'm going to bet on the handicap plus half a goal at minus 115. So a win or a draw. That's the play there. I haven't locked in this number yet because I think that you might get a little bit more juice on this because, like you said, that motivation factor. I think a lot of people will back Villa for that reason, but I just think that this Brighton team, it's not in their DNA to just kind of roll over and just mail one in here. And they're too good. There are some teams, I think it applies. West Ham, sure. I totally get that. This Brighton side, I've seen too much of them to think that they might just intentionally lay an egg or unintentionally, however you want to look at it. I just don't think that it's going to play out that way. I think it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. But the other thing I would ask to add to that is we're starting to see a little bit of a trend with Brighton in the sense that when they play against teams that play a deep line block and try and counterattack, those teams tend to have a bit of joy. But when they're playing against teams that are effectively big six teams or teams at the top end of the table, Brighton generally give them a pasting because they are better at doing what those teams try and do. They've beaten Chelsea, who are a team that try and get the ball down. They've beaten Man United, who've done the same. They obviously went to Arsenal and won. They played Man City close the other day. But they've also teams that like Everton, who sit back and counterattack, that they've beaten them. Forest have beaten them. Spurs, who sit back and counterattack, have beaten them. And I think Villa are quite happy to sit back and counterattack in the way in which they've got those players. So, Ollie Watkins is a great runner off the shoulder. He'll be looking forward to playing against Brighton's high line. So will Bailey and the midfield, I think, are quite happy to sit in there and play those really fast back to front passes to turn Brighton around. So I think it's, in general, even if it was a full strength Brighton team, and not full strength, but a fully motivated Brighton team, I still think it's a very tricky game for them because of the playing styles. And for as good as De Zerbi is at creating unbelievable free-flowing football, there is no disruptor in world football. Well, there probably is a couple, probably Mourinho in there as well. But like Unai Emery, who can come up with a game plan to really nullify a really strong attacking team. So obviously, if Brighton were fully motivated, the price on Villa would be a little bit bigger. They probably would be slight outsiders. But I still would be favouring probably a pro Villa play based on that.
All right. So we're on the opposite sides of that one. The final game of our feature 5 had to add one final head-to-head. Give you
I'm
a
3-2
chance to draw
down.
level.
So
Yes.
yeah,
I'll give you a
let's do
chance
it.
to draw level there. All right. Done. A 4-2 win in my favor at the end of the season. I'll take that as a badge of honor.
Yeah. If it's a 3-3 draw, we have to carry it over to the Champions League podcast.
Right. Done. Done. That's upcoming. The UCL betting blueprint. Or perhaps it's a play on the FA Cup final. We'll get into that. Well, let's move this forward because one of the teams featured in the FA Cup final, they're playing at home on Sunday, a place where they've been excellent, exceptional over the course of the season. It's Manchester United and Fulham. Now, we're recording this podcast before United Chelsea on Thursday. All Manchester United need is a point to qualify for the Champions League for next season. Get in, Man United. It's been a great season for Eric Ten Hag. Surprised he wasn't included in the finalists, top 6 for manager of the year, because I think he's done an exceptional job and the team's taken a huge step in the right direction. Before Thursday, back-to-back wins with a clean sheet over both Wolves and Bournemouth. Their last 5 games have gone under 2.5. 8 goals conceded at home. That's it. It's the fewest in the Premier League. The next fewest, 14. 13-3-1 ahead of Thursday. And like I said, just need a point to qualify for Champions League football. And they can finish with the second best home record overall, with a couple wins here down the stretch. Fulham, top half finish. Well done for Marco Silva and company. Coming off a 2-2 draw with Palace. Mitrovic is back and firing. 3 straight wins and 9 goals in their last 3 games. Fulham being a great overplay. A little bit of a swoon over the last few months, but they're back at it where they were for the first half of the season as of late. 7 away wins on the season for Fulham. It's the 6th most in the Premier League, and 22 goals conceded away is the 4th fewest. Those are sneaky good numbers for Fulham. Head-to-head, Garnacho scored a late winner in a 2-1 victory at Craven Cottage. And in the FA Cup, it's when everything kicked off and Mitrovic was suspended, and United won that game. 3-1 was the final. United haven't lost to Fulham in 16. No clean sheets, however, for United in their last 4. Fulham, no clean sheets in 16. And they've played to over 2.5 and 7 of 8. Both teams to score in 7 of 8. All right, United, Thursday, Sunday. They're playing in an FA Cup final. We'll see if they already qualify for the Champions League, what that means. So how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I obviously, like you said, we're recording this on Thursday before the match. I fully expect United to have sewn up Champions League football on Thursday, and I just think they're going to rest players in this match for the FA Cup final. They're already missing Rashford with an injury. There's no reason to risk anyone else, is there really? Fernandes or Casemiro or any of those kind of players. So yeah, I've got no bet in this. There's nothing that took my fancy. I think there's too many question marks for me around Man United to be looking at backing them on a handicap. Fulham have shown that they're finishing fairly strongly this season, so I was tempted by a pro Fulham play. But yeah, the goal line is set really high at 3.25, and you've just said there United's defensive record is sensational. So if anything, I'd be siding with the unders in that as a potential play, under 3.25, but no official bet from me.
It's your favorite chant, under. It's under 3 at plus 108. I'm going to bump it down to 3 at plus 108. Like, this United team, they can't score goals. If it's not Marcus Rashford, who is it? And they can control games at home. Fulham have had a great season. Talking about being demotivated. It was their final hurrah, if you will, playing at home at the Cottage. Now you're going away. It's a day out. I mean, there's no expectations there. And for United, it might be like more of a, celebration and a look ahead for them. Celebration of a mission accomplished, finishing top 4 in the Premier League, as well as showing some concern, look ahead for the FA Cup final as well. So under 3, I like that play a whole lot as well. So I can see it finishing 2-0, 1-0, like these recent games that they played. So I love this play, actually. Under 3 at plus 108. Let's go rapid fire for the remaining games. Everton, fittingly finding themselves in the rapid fire section of this podcast because we've kind of glossed over a lot of what they've done this season because it just hasn't been good enough. Can Sean Dyche keep them safe? I mean, Jake Osgathorpe thought it was a lock. They played Bournemouth this weekend. A win and Everton survive. A draw and Leeds winning by fewer than 3, and Leicester City, a draw or a loss, would do it as well. So Everton, no clean sheets in 5. They played to over 2.5, and both teams to score in 4 or 5. Bournemouth, no clean sheets in 4, but they have won 4 straight games against Everton, including 2 victories over Everton this year, one in the Premier League 3-0, and one in the FA or the EFL Cup 4-1 was the final. Are Everton in trouble this weekend? They're playing at home at Goodison. What do you make of this?
Potentially, they potentially are. I mean, they're definitely the team that I would least want to back at the prices. That is for sure. Of the 3, like we said, Leicester -107, Leeds a big plus number, and Everton a -208. There's just real, that price is just too short to get on board with. Bournemouth they secured survival, and their performances since haven't been great. They weren't bad against Chelsea, a little bit unlucky to lose 3-1. Away at Palace, they were shocking, and against Man United, they weren't great either. So that bodes well for Everton. But by the same token, this is an Everton team that have not performed very well consistently. Anyway, they've had a couple of sparks, haven't they? A couple of flashes against Brighton. They were really good, but by the same token, a little bit fortunate. The expected goals total was 3.4 to 2.9 in Brighton's favour. Either side of that, they've been really, really poor. Again, away at Wolves, probably deserved the 3 points, but that, I guess, game state comes into that, absolutely peppering the goal. So yeah, I think the fact that this is at home has me a little bit more confident about Everton getting the win. But again, I wouldn't be backing them at that price. And to be honest, there's no bet that I like the look of here at all. I'm happy to just swerve it all together. Whether Bournemouth are going to be motivated to relegate Everton effectively and put in a performance, perhaps, but I'm not willing to put any money on that, unfortunately. So I will be having a watching brief at this one, I think. And like you said, for the future play, I'm hoping Everton survive, because I did say that Sean Dyche would keep them up. But for a little bit of jeopardy, it would be nice if Bournemouth perhaps took a lead and gave the other 2 a bit of a chance.
And I think that can happen. By the way, Calvert-Lewin not playing this weekend doesn't sound like it.
Has he ever played this season?
No, but it's part
One
of the
in,
problem.
one out.
Part of the problem. Like I know they're creating chances, but I don't think that they're much better than Bournemouth. I know from a data perspective, Bournemouth right at the bottom of the Premier League, and the last couple of weeks it's been a little bit in cruise control, but finished strong. I can see that happening. I think Bournemouth are going to give them a right go in this game. For me, I think the preferred play where I think it's going to end up, I think it could end up in a draw, and they keep their fingers crossed. That the other results don't go their way. A draw could still be good enough for Everton when all's said and done. I like Bournemouth on the handicap, to be honest with you. That's my play. Either at plus 1.25 at minus 120. That's playable for me. If you want to buy it down on the Asian handicap, the Bournemouth +1 at plus 113. I'd do that too. If they lose by a goal, you get your money back. I just don't think Everton's a goal better than Bournemouth, even, with their season being on the line. What like, we've been watching this Everton side all year. They're not good. They're not good at all. Like, I have a hard time backing them the way they are. -208 to win this game. It's just one of those numbers. It's like being shifted completely in Everton's favor based upon the context. But when you get down to it, they're not that much better than Bournemouth. So I think they can keep it close in this game. So I do like a play in this game. Bournemouth on the handicap. Brentford and Man City. I definitely don't have a play for this game because City haven't lost in 25. They played on Wednesday, and they have 2 bigger games upcoming. So I'm not sure what this means. Do you have a play for this game?
Yeah, I'm taking Brentford on the handicap. So that's plus 0.5.
Plus, yep. I had that down as my preferred play if I did make one, but I'm just going to stay away.
Yeah, we're getting -101, which I think is a very backable price. I mean, we've been on the Brentford home train pretty much all season. I don't see a reason to get off, to be honest, because, as I said, that they're generally teams playing at home, the final home game, they do put on a performance. And Brentford are finishing the season really, really strongly. They can still finish seventh as well. So there's motivation to try and win this game because, if you are right and Brighton drop points against Villa, and Spurs potentially drop points against Leeds, then the door is open for Brentford to finish seventh. I think even a point for Villa would, and a win for Brentford will see them finish seventh because their goal difference is better. But yeah, that's a huge motivation for them. The results and performances have been really good lately. Obviously, just been to Spurs and beat them 3-1. But yeah, they beat them at the Etihad as well, quite convincingly. They've got that going for them.
Oh, by the way, the only home loss on the season for Man City was to Brentford.
Brentford. Yeah, which is great. And at home overall, the record is 1-9, drawn 7, lost 2. So Brentford have only lost twice at home all season long. So this bet would have won in the other 16 matches. And they've averaged nearly 2 expected goals for per game and just 1.25 expected goals against per game. So the process is the 7th best in the league when it comes to playing at home. So they deserve a lot of respect. And obviously, like you said, City have got one eye on the finals. They're trying to complete the treble. There'll be more rotation. There'll be, will they play as hard because they don't want to potentially get injured and miss those games? That all potentially could come into it. You might see quite a lot of subs being made, which can again disjoint things throughout the match. So I think it's a really good opportunity for Brentford to get a win. Give them a chance of European football. That'd be a hell of a way to sign off the season. And I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility at all that happens, that Brentford do finish seventh. I give them, I just done my article for Sporting Life. I've got Brentford winning 2-1 as the correct score. I could see Brentford just again, it's another bit of a tactical mismatch. Man City want to dominate the ball, pin you in deep, and Brentford just love playing on the counter-attack and turning you really quickly. We saw that even against Tottenham, who don't like dominating the ball. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think over here we've got 3 games on telly right now, the 3 relegation teams, and I hope that they pick this game as the 4th. I think they've got another slot. I would really like to watch this just because I do think Brentford have got a chance. I kind of want them to as well. I think it'd be a hell of a story. Yeah. I think pre-season most people had them predicted to finish in the relegation zone, so it might even be a better story than Brighton if they were to finish in European spots.
Yeah, I get everything that you're saying, and I put down Brighton on the handicap at -101. I can't get there because I think that Holland's going to want to smash in a couple more goals. They'll play probably 45 minutes. He comes off. You have Alvarez. I look at the players who probably won't start in the FA Cup final or the Champions League final. They're Foden and Mahrez. Like Laporte probably his final game. You bring in Rico. You bring in this team is very, very good. Their second team is good. No Ivan Toney. I know they scored 3 goals against Spurs last week, but it's Spurs. In recent weeks, they've been having trouble, scoring goals, finishing some of their chances. I just can't get there. City just being too good across the board. And Pep will remind them that they lost to this team earlier this season. I have no doubt about that. And it's about preparation. I know this game doesn't really mean anything, but the standard needs to be high. You don't want to lose this game, then go into the FA Cup final and just say, well, you want to keep those good vibes going. So could very well end in a draw. It could happen. I'm going to just stay away from this one entirely, but I hope all your dreams come true in this one. Let's put it that way. Arsenal and Wolves. Do you have a play in this game?
Yeah, I am taking Arsenal -1.5 on the handicap at -101. Last few weeks, Arsenal have really played like a team under pressure, big time. I know a lot of people don't want to say they bottled it, but they bottled it. They were in a really commanding position. They held all that points gap. They were 2-0 up against Liverpool and West Ham, threw that away. Lack of experience and also obviously the pressure paying. So now they've got a home game. They're going to get a decent applause, and the crowd are going to be with them because it's been a much better season from what they're used to seeing of late. I think they'll play with a bit of freedom. They've at home in general they've been excellent.
So I thought last week at Nottingham Forest just.
Well, I thought the pressure was on them there as well to
really
just to extend it, just to make Man City beat Chelsea. But they look like a beaten team anyway before that game. In the Brighton game, I think was the end of it for them. I think that this is the opportunity to just kind of end the season on a positive. And like I said, Arsenal been excellent at home. The process is really good. And then you've got Wolves, who they like West Ham. They are a team that have completely thrown the towel in when it comes to playing away from home. I have no idea what's been going on with them. You know, the last 6 away from home, they've lost 5, including at Leicester, and they've conceded 2.6 expected goals against per game. So they really have just completely just either tuned out. They got the flip flops ready on the pina coladas, you know, and then also not only have you got this what's happening on the pitch, but also off the pitch, the reports and the rumours about Lopetegui's future, which is hugely concerning. You'd have to think for the players, for the fans, you know, whether he's going to stay or not. So I think this is a good spot for Arsenal to finish with a bit of a bang. And like I said, Wolves have been very fortunate to steer clear of the relegation battle because their performances have not been good from a data perspective whatsoever. I mean, based on the expected points table, they currently sit below Leeds, Leicester, Everton, based on expected points, which kind of just shows you the levels that they've hit. The process has actually got worse since Lopetegui's come in. The results obviously have got better. So they would be again one to keep an eye on for next season if they're a decent price for relegation, because they are performing at that kind of level. Yeah, I think Arsenal could finish with on a bit of a high with a couple of goal victory. So yeah, I'm taking Arsenal.
Under 3.25 and -107 is my play. This is Wolves. They played to the under in this fixture 4 of their last 5 games. No Martinelli for Arsenal. I think the sound that you heard last week at Forest for Arsenal was just the wind completely taken out of their sails. Just deflated. You know, it'll be a nice send-off. Congratulations. You didn't win anything this season at the Etihad. Or sorry, at the Emirates. Like, they didn't win anything. Like, second place. Like, okay.
They won Champions League qualification. You get a trophy for that in this country, remember?
Apparently. So, well done. You exceeded expectations. Under 3.25 in this game. It'll be a very Wolves-ish game. That's what I'm predicting.
3-0 to Arsenal.
That's fine. Well, it'd be a half win.
2-0 then. 2-0.
Still taking the under. 2-0 would be perfect. Southampton and Liverpool. I have no play here. Southampton haven't won in 12. Liverpool haven't lost in 10. But there's no value for me on either side in this game, especially if United wrap up Champions League qualification on Thursday night.
I'm taking Liverpool on the handicap, same as Arsenal. -1.5, you're getting even money. Southampton are just Southampton, aren't they? They're just rubbish, down with a whimper. I think they've lost 8 of the last 9. It'd be miraculous if something turned around and they actually, they actually got a result here. Liverpool were halted by Villa. They weren't great in that game, but before that, they were on an absolute tear, looking like a machine. The process has been really good across that period. Last 8 matches, 2.1 XG, 1.1 against. They'll want to finish strong. I mean, if you remember back to the season where after they won the title, they finished on a run of, I think it was 8 wins in a row. They did sneak into the top 4 that season, but that momentum carried over to the following season where they went and got 97 points. So I think that's something they're not going to do 97 points next season, but that's something that I think they will want to finish strongly. They'll want to be able to carry that form through. And you know, I think they're still motivated, these players, to prove that they deserve to start next season or be part of the plans next season. I think he'll make a couple of changes. I think Nunes will come in. I think he'll be a handful. Yeah, I think Liverpool will go there and do a number on Southampton.
Klopp's not on the bench. It's going to be like all the players that are leaving are going to like. I can see how this game is going to play out. Samikas and Milner and Firmino and everyone.
They had that last season. They had that.
I know, but they'll do it again. They'll just milk it this week because they're playing Southampton. And Southampton,
for Southampton,
they're going to be saying goodbye to the Premier League, and they might come out and score a goal. And there's just nothing I like here. But I'm staying away from this game. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to consume it. I want nothing to do with this game. It's avoid at all costs.
I think Liverpool win quite handsomely. So I'm taking them on the handicap. Yeah,
maybe the game screams irrelevant. So I'm just gonna buy. It's number 10 out of 10 on my must-watch list this weekend.
Is it really?
Yes,
That low?
dead last. I'd rather watch this game, Palace and Forest. Well, why not? Because I've been playing this game. You've
You
been
are a
playing this game.
purist. Yeah.
Since you left, Roy Hodgson's taken over and got on a flyer.
Yeah, man.
I think it goes straight through. Good on Nottingham Forest. I said it earlier in the podcast. Steve Cooper deserves a lot of credit dealing with what he's dealt with and to get through. That's the side I just think they're dreadful. Forest haven't won in 11 games away from home in all competitions.
And they've somehow survived. Crazy.
Somehow survived. Last time they won was at Southampton on Jan 4. Palace on the handicap minus 0.75 at minus 115. Palace to win this one. I think they could win by a couple here. Job's done for Forest. So I got a Palace play. And they've been good. And I think they want to play well at home in their final game of the season as well.
Yeah, you can double it. I've got the same bet. I think they're going to want to play well. They have been playing well. They've been creating chances, and obviously it could be a possible second send off for Roy, in which the players will probably want to turn up and really, give him a nice little leaving gift.
Keep him around. Keep him
even if you put him into like a sporting director role or something, that might be of interest. I don't know. It just depends where they want to go. I mean, the Patrick Vieira experiment worked. He's really good.
He's the biggest loser out of all of this. I mean, his stock is just like, I don't even think it's Roy's stock going back through the. Oh, what a great manager Roy's! I don't think it's that. I think it's just Patrick Vieira had no clue how to play this team, how to use the players in this team.
No, which is weird because last season he did, and they were a team that I did really like the look of coming into this season. But yeah, it's interesting that Vieira, Gerrard and Lampard, all their stocks completely crashed now, given that they've been sacked, replaced by proper managers, and or come in and made a situation worse. But yeah, I think that this could be a good opportunity for Palace to get a win, big win. Forest, again, another team that's probably been on the cans all week, celebrating survival, and rightly so. And to be honest, I just wanted to say well done to the Forest chairman and owner. I mean, he was the only owner of the club down there who didn't sack the manager, and you reap the rewards of that. That continuity is sometimes king. And I personally, I know it's if buts and maybes. I think if Southampton don't sack Hasenhüttl, they have a chance going into the last day of the season. I don't think they go down the way in which they have. I think who has Bournemouth, they replaced Gary O'Neill, replaced Parker with O'Neill. We've got obviously Forest. That
was self-inflicted by Parker. He was asking to get sacked. I mean,
a little bit, yeah. But
a lot bit.
Yeah, well, he did. He basically did a Conte before Conte.
But I don't know if we're giving too much credit to Mavropanos, because when you buy 28 players, whether it was him that decided not to sack the manager or someone else, someone made the decision to keep Steve Cooper, and they deserve credit.
Whoever
that was
deserves the credit. Yeah,
and don't worry about Southampton; they already have their manager for next season, so trying to make amends for just what a season. The 10 games done. We've gone a little bit long on this podcast. The 10 games in the books for the final match week of the season. I have one more question, one more bet to ask of you. It's a futures play available on Pinnacle. Does Manchester City win the treble? You can find it in the futures plays. Yes, minus 169. No, at plus 139. Does Manchester United or Inter beat City to stop them from winning the treble? Are you making a play at plus 139?
I'm not. No, I'm not. I don't think there's enough juice in that price for me.
What does it need to get to?
Probably plus 150. I might start thinking about it. I just think obviously, it's two finals. They're one-off games where anything can happen. But the gulf between City and both teams is quite staggering, to be honest. Probably more so Inter than the Man United. So it probably would be United that would upset them. And obviously they've beaten them once already this season. But yeah, that number's a little bit too short for me. They've the schedule's fallen nicely for them, hasn't it, with the Champions League in terms of the final. I mean, they've obviously beaten Real Madrid and Bayern Munich to get there. But yeah, for a change, things have kind of fallen in their favour, and it looks a very one-sided Champions League final. And then, yeah, Man United's going to be the interesting one because they've obviously already been to Wembley and won a trophy. They've beat City. They've shown they can set up and frustrate them, but they haven't played City as City are right now. Since the switching formation, the switching tactics with the extra centre half in there, and I think that's going to be interesting. But that would be the one where I would suggest that they could potentially halt them. And that'd be a win-win, double win for United, wouldn't it? Because they stop the treble and they win a trophy. So yeah, I personally would not be playing on that. I just think that the City, in my opinion, are the best team in the world right now, the way in which they're playing. And
bold take there, Jake. Bold take.
Well, there's no one else, is there really? Like, it's a thin pool right now.
Yeah, that's my take on that. Despite what's gone on over the last decade off the field with Manchester City, that's not on these players. They're a wonderful team of players. They're so good to watch. And they will be a considerable favorite heading into both those games. I just go back, like the treble in 1999, that meant something. This treble, just shrug. That's how people
said, like a true Man United fan.
I wish more people cared about Manchester City, but they don't, unless your last name's Gallagher or something like that. So yeah, we'll see how those games play out. Still to come. By the way, thank you very much to Andrew Beasley, who's done a great job sitting in for Jake over the course of recent weeks. He'll be back joining us on the Champions League betting blueprint as we look to the final, Inter and Man City, to be played in Istanbul in a few weeks' time. So you can look forward to that podcast as well. Thank you so much for tuning in all season long. We hope that you made a little bit of a profit as well and had some fun. It's been a great season. Honestly, I love the Premier League. It's the best league in the world. And we hope that you got something out of this podcast on a week-to-week basis. And thanks to my co-host, Jake Osgathorpe, best in the business. It's a pleasure to work with you. And already looking forward to next season. Hopefully we can keep the band together and keep this going.
Yeah, let's do that. It's going to be another cracker.
Awesome. On behalf of Jake, I am Wheels. Remember, the odds were accurate at the time of recording, and please gamble responsibly. This has been EPL Insights with data provided by Infogol.